Hello again, Mr JakeConway. I've been reading through your replies and I thought, rather than do it in the comments, because we're not getting anywhere, you don't answer my questions in those comments, I answer yours, then you skip past the fact that I asked you one, you ask me more. And the more and more questions I answer of you, you're getting to know me, but you're hiding. You're actually hiding from me. I can't get to know you because you're not giving me those answers. So let's try again. There was one point you made that I can clearly demonstrate to be false. You said human beings know good and bad naturally. Morality does not require a source. Morality doesn't require a higher authority to define it for us. We just know what good and bad is, you know. And I know where you're getting that from. I also, when I was an atheist, have many books that subscribe to this atheist theory that morality, good and bad, just exists. You know, it's just a thing. Like, no one needs to make it or enforce it. It doesn't need to be told to us. It's just a thing, according to these great authors. Dan Barker, Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, right? And the only book that you're going to find which denies this is the Holy Bible, where God clearly says, this is what you should do for morality, describes it, then gives reasons for it, then says this is what should happen if you don't do it or if you do it. So there's our two panels. We've got the God side, the religion side, where God gives morality, gives explanation for why we should do it, and then says this is what will happen to you if you don't do it. And then we have the atheist side, these guys that say, no, that doesn't exist, that's evil. You know, to have a pre-existing defined morality is actually evil, is what they say and what you've said. And actually, when that disappears, human beings are just naturally all moral. Like, they just have built-in morality. That's what you kind of said, isn't it? I'll put the comment on screen so you know this is how I got to there. That you said this, that's what that meant to me. This being said by you means you think morality is just naturally imbued in every single human being, but not from God, because God's evil if he exists, which he doesn't. That's what you said. Let me tell you why I think that's not true. So have you ever held a small baby in your arms? I have. If you ever cradle a small baby in your arms, it will laugh and, you know, it will do funny things. It'll make you happy to look at this little baby. Then you give it back to its mother, and the mother starts cradling it, and it punches the mother out of nowhere. Gives a really solid punch in the face, and then it laughs. And you think, is that moral, what that baby just did? Punching the mother? And then it continues to punch because it finds this extremely hilarious, right? And the mother has to sit the baby down and hold its hand and push the hand down, you know, push its hand down physically to make it understand, no, you don't do that. And even though the baby can't understand words yet, because it's far too young, the mother, through behaviours, through example, will let that baby know you shouldn't punch people. And then in future, the occurrences of baby punching mum for no reason tends to drop. So that's the mother installing very basic morality on the baby by saying, don't do this, physically stopping him doing the thing, punching and holding the hand down, you know, using force, very, very minimal force. And exempling with a gruff voice, because the baby can't understand the words at this point. All that the baby can hear is, you know, like a kind of angry voice. That's how the mother teaches a baby not to punch. So if morality is naturally occurring within all human beings, and all babies are born with it, is how that ends, if you think that to its conclusion, how come no babies have morality when they're born? Now, I'm not trying to say, and I know this is what you're going to do to strawman me, you're going to say Daily Covid now says all babies are immoral. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying babies are amoral. They don't have morality at all. They don't care about good or bad morality because it is not natural to them. And the way they will learn it is through observation of example from the parent and through tuition with words. And sometimes minimal force, holding the baby's arm down so that it can't continue to punch you. So that is a prime example that everyone can understand of how babies are not born moral. Morals are not built into humanity at all. No human's ever been born with morals built in. We are amoral. We don't know anything about morals, and we have to be taught them. So where do we learn them from? Again, I refer back to these atheists here, these eminent authors, atheists of renown, which you all know. These guys suggest that since morality is latent, built into human beings, You don't need to have a teacher. You don't need to have a source. You don't need to have an authority. People will just get along and do good things without being taught. And they will know what these good things are. But then again, we look for the experience of life. Does the example of reality prove this to us when we look across the world? And then we think, right, the countries who have got the worst, most depraved behaviour in the most mass populations, who are they? They are nations which do not have God's morality. You know, they're the nations who are against God's morality. Maybe they are atheist nations like Russia and Communist China or North Korea, or they actively have anti-religion. They have their own religions which say God's religion is bad, Christ is bad, the Bible is bad, much like atheism has fallen into the trap of. But what is the evidence of these countries? What do they say of natural human morality? Well, for instance, communism has gone through various dark periods of its life, where it said morality means if you have more than one child, you kill the child. If it's a female child, you kill the child. If you already have more children than one, you sell the child to slavery. And that was considered moral. And we have a situation in today's world, and this is happening in China, where people, when they hit rock bottom because of the communist structure of the government, and they have no money, no food, but a large family to look after, and the pressure's on them to look after that large family, and they find it impossible, they will drive a car into a crowd of children outside of a school, planning to murder as many of those children as they can, and then die by cop. That's what their plan is when they do that. And they call it revenge on society. Now, this is what they consider to be moral. That's why they do that and why they call it revenge on society. Revenge on society is moral in those people. That's why they do it. Society is immoral to them, and therefore revenging on the immoral society is moral. That's how that works. How does their society become immoral in the first place? Well, it's because, like you and the other atheists, they deny that morality has to be above human beings. They deny that truth and good and bad needs to be out of the control of human beings so that it cannot be corrupted by human beings. And then they have to say, well, we have natural morality anyway. And then the expression of natural morality is following the law of the government. And then they get revenge on society. So that's a good example of, in observation, you know, in reality, how having no God, having morality not on a pedestal, which is why God has to control morality, not humans. If God has hold of morality and controls it and we don't, it means we cannot mess with it. I cannot rewrite the 10 Commandments to say, right, killing's okay under these circumstances, stealing's okay under these circumstances, adultery's okay under these circumstances, and sodomy's okay under these circumstances. I cannot do that. Whether I want to or not, it's not in my hands. Humanity's here, morality's here, God and morality are here, and I can't access them. So it safeguards morality, set in stone, in tablets. And that means I can argue about some points of law, or I can go in front of a judge and I can argue that my particular case was different. But the overall picture of morality is always going to be don't steal, don't kill, don't adulterate, and all the rest. And that just doesn't happen in the examples where atheism is in control of morality, such as Communist China, Russia and North Korea, and the Islamic countries. I mean, look what's happening in Syria right now. Don't try and tell me that natural Syrian morality is just bad. You know, they just all got born bad. That's what you're suggesting. If you're saying that morality is a natural imbuement of humanity, if everyone's born with it, then why is it that Syria is obliterating its own people right now, forcing them to run off the top of high car parks at the barrel of a gun, and then shouting Allahu Akbar and thinking this is moral? If that is true, and what you're saying is true, then that must mean all Syrians are born with bad morality. So actually atheism is racist towards Syrians now. If what you're saying is true, which thank God it is not. So in conclusion, we can see, although you can make the theoretical, logical case, as they do in these books, that morality does not need a higher source, does not need a higher authority, and actually just grows out of humanity at random, you know, some people have it, some don't, In practice, that not only doesn't work, but destroys the countries that believe in it. As in communist China, Russia, and the Syrians are finding that out now. Whereas the countries that, for better or for worse, accept God's testimony, that morality is above humanity and we cannot change it or mess with it, it's always going to be the same, and that's because God created it for us to follow, this book. These countries, though they are not perfect, at least can avoid having these huge problems like Syria are having now, where they are genociding their own people, the Druze, who are other types of Muslims, right? So you've got Sunni extremists trying to wipe out the Druze Muslims over a small point of doctrine. That's it. And the small point of doctrine is, should we be at war with Jews forever? And the Druze say, no, we shouldn't. So that means they're now treated like the Jews. And the Sunnis want to wipe out the Jews and the Druze. The Druze might as well be the Jews now in the eyes of the Sunnis. That's what happens when you don't have latent, authoritative morals from God that are set in stone and can never be changed. Then you have the revenge attacks in China. Then you have Russia invading Ukraine. All of these things can be attributed to human morality. Putin will make the excuses of why it was right for him to invade Ukraine and use cluster bombs and gas weapons on civilians, and then lie about it to try and generate support in the West. He says that's moral. We know if we subscribe to this morality, that cannot be moral, and therefore the invasion of Ukraine is not moral. We know that the October 7th attacks in Israel are not moral if we subscribe to these morals. Invading for the sake of taking hostages and raping and burning the bodies of children and women is never moral. We know that from this. But if we subscribe to this, then we can make those things moral and we can say they're good. We should do more of them. And that's why I say to you, even if you don't believe in God, you should absolutely believe in higher morality from God. Otherwise, you are staring down the barrel at Satan, like so many of these people I've exampled: China, Russia, North Korea, Syrians. And where does it end? Where does it end? You'll be the answer of that in your own life. So that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed that and you learned something. Please feel free to fact check every single word I've said. If you don't believe me that the Syrians are genociding the Druze Muslims right now, the Druze Muslims, just go and find out for yourself. If you don't believe me that the October the 7th attacks were driven by the same mindset, anti-God, thinking that morality could be in the hands of the humans, taking hostages and having hostages with the intent of raping and burning them so that they could genocide Jews, please go and fact check that. And with Russia and Ukraine. If you don't believe that Putin has morally justified invading Ukraine and using weapons like cluster bombs and gas weapons against primarily civilians, then you can go and fact check that yourself. They are examples of what happens to morality when it's in the hands of human beings. Because over time humans become more and more and more corrupt if they don't have solid set in stone morality from God. And that's why America, Australia, Canada, Britain have the least occurrences of these things. Like, we're not perfect, we're humans, we have sins, we have crimes, we do things wrong, but the bottom line is we know when something's wrong because we were taught by our parents that this is moral, this is not. And the template for what our parents taught us in good families was this, whether we like it or not. So that's the end of this video. Please leave your comments or your insults below the video and I'll come up with answers to those. In the meantime, have a lovely day, God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.